Two pretty sizable stories are out there, or talking points. One is Dalton Risner has gone to the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of Dolphin fans pegged him to come here. He's not coming here. I'm going to cover him going to Minnesota. What does it mean for us? And some yada yada with that. And then Brian Baldinger, Baldy, kind of talked about the Dolphins defense, and he wasn't super positive about it, although within that there were some positives. So I'm going to cover both those topics. Now, a lot of sports coverage is about personalities trying to get flow to their channel by saying things that are bombastic, making prophecies. And in the end, if they're not accurate, people don't care, because a lot of people really enjoy just the feeling behind the game. And if somebody tells you what you want to hear, whether it's this team or this guy sucks or this team is great and this guy is great, then you're happy and you don't care if they're right or wrong. And it's fine. It's a game. But I believe in old style journalism. I believe in studying the game. It's been a fascination with me since I've been in military school, 6, and the big boys asked me to play football with them. I love the game. I love to study. And this game is just, it's the beautiful woman that you try to reach after, but you never fully get. And that's the beauty of it. No one knows everything. And you know, when people give their opinions or evaluations, however you want to take it, you have to look at that person and say they've had a set of experiences. They have a set of knowledge. And you have to say, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it into what I know and put it next to what others know if you're really looking for an accurate evaluation. I believe in presenting possibilities through perception. I'm not always accurate. I try to be. I like being accurate, but I'm not always accurate. But I do try to be honest, and I do try to take this from a scientific, studious standpoint. And a game of football is very, 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 very complex. There's so many things that go into it. I talk about that. So I'm going to talk about Risner going to Minnesota. I'm going to talk about what Baldinger said. And I'm going to do it on a very surface level to give people a very basic understanding. But this Friday, I finally figured out what I want to do. I was going to cover this on the Friday live for the majority. If you got a different question or something, we could do that there, as well. But I want to talk about the trenches, the line of scrimmage, in both the concept of what it means in the game of football and how that applies to what we have as a team. So that's what I'm going to do Friday for the live. But again, we'll get into it on basic here. So I appreciate all you do. Love this game. Love to study it. And you guys make it happen. So I want to give you a shout out to Ace Per Head. Without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so Dalton Risner is now a Minnesota Viking, and some people were very high on him. I had said there were some problems with Butch Barry and the offensive line in Denver. You can't say Barry's a bad guy, but Risner is a guy who's talented enough that he should have a job and not be struggling to get a job, and it is. Ever since that moment where he exploded on the sidelines, he's made a name for himself and he's done something that can really cut you off at the knees, and that is dissension. That is going against the staff. Now, if he was super talented, then it'd be a different story. They would give him a lot more leeway. He'd get that big contract, but he is not that talented. I think he's more talented maybe some of the guys we have here, but he has flaws to his game. And with this black spot on him, he is searching for a gig. And I think that with this in his personality profile and the fact that Butch Barry had issues with him, it was a no-go. But I also think for another reason, I think that Chris Greer, whatever you think about him, he's invested heavy in Eichenberg. He's invested heavy in picks to get him a second and a third. He's invested heavy in the time to give him reps, to take away from somebody else another opportunity. We could have had Zach Tom. I don't think we drafted him because he believes in Eichenberg. But he's also with his own credibility in the media by talking about this GM thought he was great and I think he's doing great and he's ready. So we are going, I think, with Eichenberg at right guard. I think that if he does decently, and we're doing decently, he'll get an extension just like Austin Jackson. And I think that's the direction they're going. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we'll find out. So, but you have to understand that with Dalton Risner, I learned early on in college, I was a walk-on to a very prestigious school. I almost made it. I broke a school record in one of the testing drills. I was a hard worker. I had some talent. But I made two mistakes. I missed a pass block on a drill before a big scrimmage. I thought it was run block. The coach didn't like me, so he screwed me up. I think he did it on purpose. And I set up for a run block. It was a pass block. And then I dropped a pitch. Those two things had me thrown to the side. Now I had to come back a whole nother year and reboot the whole thing, and that wasn't happening. But there were all the guys on the team that were total screw-ups, but they were very talented from a big school, and my school is a farm system for Georgia Tech. And so I had to be perfect in order to make the grade. They could do less because they were more talented. They had people investing in them. Long story. So Dalton Risner is not a super talent. And so I understand why he's not here. And I understand from Greer's perspective, whether I like it or not, the whole deal with Butch Barry. So he's not here, and that's the deal. And I'm going to tie it all in. What does that mean? But first I want to get into the Baldinger thing because it kind of pulls together. And this whole season is going to come down to something I don't think people are really, really talking about. I've been talking for a while. It's not the offensive line. But I'll pull it together after this. So I guess a lot of people might know what Baldinger said. Brian Baldinger played the game. He's a great guy, old school. I call him the Granite Druid men that like got that 50s look, the 50s feel. You know, he's a nice guy. He tries to tell it like it is. He doesn't have the flash of personality like some of these people, modern day guys do. But he knows the game really well. Doesn't mean he's always right. You got to take his experiences and his set of knowledge and pull it together and take it for what it will. But here's what he said.
I think he's a good coach. He's been a coordinator. He's been through the Baltimore system. It is different than what Vic does. They've got to replace a lot of pieces defensively. I watched him yesterday. There's, Jalen Phillips still hobbling from an Achilles. There's Bradley Chubb. You got young kids in Robinson and Kamara, that they're counting on, but they're rookies. So, and at the defensive tackle position, it doesn't look real strong at this point. I mean, they just got a bunch of guys in there right now. They got just guys. So I think the defense takes a step back, but maybe it gets compensated with an offense that could put up 28 or 30 points a game.
There's a bunch of stuff here to break down. And the first thing is what I said, I've been saying for a while, don't expect Phillips and Chubb to be back anytime soon. And I had spoke a couple weeks ago briefly about the atrophy of Jalen Phillips' calf. That's a big deal. It takes a while for that to recover. And then once that muscle grows and he feels comfortable, then you have to get reacclimated both mentally and physically to get back to your game. It's going to be a while before these two guys come in. And I had said also, and it doesn't mean I'm right, and Balding is right, I'm agreeing with him here, that Kamara and Chop are rookies. And what does that mean? Okay, so I had said when Phillips came in, yeah, he had all these pass stats. Everybody was like, oh, he's the best. You have to be a complete player or it becomes a problem. Rookies will struggle in run defense to figure out how to do this game, to get themselves ready. And if you can't stop the run, I think they're going to be fine. I think Chop, I think Kamara are going to do well in a pass rush. But you've got to be both. Because if you can't stop the run, then you're helping the offense get on schedule, which makes it very difficult for the defense. It also puts a problem for you being in red zone because if you can't stop the run in the red zone, that's a touchdown. It's one thing to get up a big run in the middle of the field or beginning part of the field, but it's different in the red zone. And it takes opportunities from your pass rush. That's what happened to Jalen Phillips. He couldn't stop the run year one, although he was pass rushing well. They pulled him out in the red zone on critical third downs, where it was mixed match downs, like, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2. And so Barrett, I like Barrett, but it's going to be a problem when you pull us all together. And it's going to take time for these guys to get in. I think they're going to be good picks, but it's very, very few guys that come out hot to trot right out of the gate. They could be, but I don't think they're going to be one of them. And so with the Chubb coming in late and the Phillips coming in late and these guys being rookies and really only having Barrett on the edge, there is going to be some problems on this defense, not from a conceptual side, which were what I really liked, not from how this scheme fits the talent of what we got and what we did in the past, which I like, but from the ability to be a complete defense. This defense must stop the run on first down. And then it comes to his second point, which was the DI spot. I think he misspoke. Zach Sealer is a very good DI, but depends on what technique he's using and what gap he's covering. So if I'm the center, stopping the ball, that's the 0. And as you go out, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Different guys and their physical makeup and their skill sets work better at different positions. You got a 340-pound guy. He's not going to work out on a tackle as well as he's going to work over the center. Now, Zach Sealer, I've shown over and over again many, many, many times, he's tall and thin, but when he's inside and he gets doubled, the hips buckle, and then he gets beat on the run defense. When he's one-on-one, he does really well. And when he gets outside, he's better. With the Ravens, he was a D-end. They like to run 3-4, a lot more back then than they do now. And when you got a 3-4, generally speaking, you got a big guy in the middle over the center, and then you got 2 ends. And usually one of those ends is a really good run stopper, and the other one's a guy who's a little more athletic. He's the pass rusher, and you move and mix match. Seal is the guy who can stop the run really well, but he can also pass rush. The dog doing his thing again, the AC. So Sealer works really well when he's over a guard and he's not getting doubled, or when he's in between the guard and the tackle, or when he's in front of the tackle or outside the tackle in the run stuff. That's where he's best. He can handle a tackle and a tight end doubling him, but he really struggles when he gets doubled by a tackle and a guard, or a guard and a center. And so I like him at DI, just that interior is a little problem. Now, he didn't mention Deshaun Hand, who I like a lot. Little small, 6'3", 297, but he's done really well. But he's a small snap count guy. And he also didn't take into account Peely. We don't know where he's going to get to. This guy has talent. I don't know if he's going to get to where we need him to be. I think next year more than this year. A big guy with some agility. So he doesn't like the DI spot. It's not really big on the D-line spot for the most part until Chubb and Phillips come back. And that makes sense. But we got to see what happens in this DI spot, because the NFL is about 0 out. It's about inside out. It's about A-gap out. It always been that way. And we don't need to be a smash mouth offense. And that's in the last part that he talked about. He said, unless this offense is putting 28 points a game and you can get time for Chubb and Phillips to get back, and these guys are playing in their small defense and playing against the pass, if we're driving with this offense and we're putting points on, forcing them to pass, then our DI spot is not going to matter as much. Our ability to stop the run is not going to matter as much. It's in the close games, or if we're behind, because when you're behind, you can't just keep throwing. You got to run a little bit, or else they're just going to sit in coverage all day. So our ability to run the football, our ability to put points on, and our ability to stop the run are going to be critical for the season. And it's going to improve when Chubb and Phillips get back. It's going to improve if Peely and Deshaun Hand can really step up. But we've got to see. So I agree mostly with what Baldinger said. Now, when you pull it all together, you're going to have an offensive line. I said, beginning of the season, it's going to be Tehran, it's going to be Wynn, it's going to be Brewer, it's going to be Eichenberg, it's going to be Jackson. That's your offensive line. That's your starting offensive line. Now, Van Rotten is a guy some people thought, now they're pegging, okay, we're not rising Van Rotten, but Van Rotten is 34 years old, and I think he's better than Eichenberg, but if Greer spent a second and third, Eichenberg's going to be a free agent next year, and he's invested all this. If you bring Van Rotten in, he's going to beat out Eichenberg. And if he beats out Eichenberg in practice and they don't start him, the team's going to know something's up, and it will undermine the integrity of the staff. And so I don't think they're going to bring anybody. I'm going to go over it on Friday, but I think this is your offensive line, and we don't know. We've got Jonnu Smith now to do some things. We've got OBJ. Jalen Wright's a piece I want to talk about. You need to run inside a little bit. And when you look at Jalen Wright, a lot of his pop plays are from inside draws. He's a big guy, a one-cut guy. He's fast. He could do a little bit on the edge, but Achane's the edge catch guy, and Jalen and Mostert are the inside guys. Well, Mostert has the ability to hit the outside, and so maybe it will be enough if our offensive line steps up. Now, Baldy's not big on Brewer, and he's not big on the offensive line either, but we've got to see. And this comes back to what I was saying. This season, as it was in previous seasons that I've said, it's not about the offensive line guys or Tua or McDaniel. It's about the idea. It's about the architect who pulls everything together. Greer has an idea: speed, talent, passing, skills, and inside in the physical department, not so much. And we've got to see how the idea plays out, because he's the most important piece of the puzzle. And you start at the most grievous problem, or the most grievous part of the most important part of the solution, and then you work your way down. And so this season will truly test this high finesse, high speed, high talent philosophy. And if it plays out, he'll be a genius. He'll be brilliant. And this team will have done something very different. It will generate possibly the big idea. But if it doesn't play out, it's going against tried and true formulas. It's not to say you just teacup your life away. That's not it. That's not what I'm talking about. But I believe that the game was a certain way. It went to pass heavy fumble, and now it's gone to pass balance. And Chris Greer is kind of believing in the fumble system, the speed system, and he is going his own direction. The road less traveled, as one said. It made all the difference. Will it make all the difference? We'll see. But most of the people who take the road less traveled, they're eaten by bears and pooped out. So at the end of the season, whatever happens, you've got to start with culpability, responsibility with Greer, or you start with your applause at Greer, because his philosophy, his idea is the top of the umbrella. And so that's what this thing is going to be all about. We can have success with the speed, the skills. I mean, you go back, look at the last couple of seasons, the injuries and all this. We were a few games, a few plays away from getting where we want to go. But those few plays make all the difference. Inches everywhere. There's inches. So let's see how it plays out. I have a philosophy. A lot of you have a philosophy. Brian Baldinger has a philosophy. The philosophies drive this game, and Chris Greer's philosophy is a unique philosophy, and that's why you've got to start with it. So let's see how it plays out. I'm going to get into this really, 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 really in detail. Not offensive line, and not just the line of scrimmage, but the defensive line, and then building out how this applies to our talent base, and showing you what it means, both the positive and negatives, because that's where you start. The line of scrimmage, you build your way out. Chess is just like football in a lot of ways. You control the center four squares, you control the board. It's the same thing in football. Now, it doesn't mean we can't control it. We've got to see. But it is always going to be about center out. You've got to be able to control it sometimes. So that's what I'm going to get into Friday. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Went a little deep here, try to keep it a little shallow. Game of football is so complex. That's why I love it. Anyway, be well, go Phins. Curtis out. Garrett, how do you cut on that one? Get in there. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.